The Constitution and all of its rights and laws should only last roughly 19 years, and then should have to be debated, drafted, and voted on all over again. Well, that's at least what one founding father theorized. It's kind of a wild idea, but does this thought experiment actually have merit? In 1789, Thomas Jefferson argued that the Constitution and all national laws should expire every 19 years. The first purge, so to speak. And once you hear his reasoning, it gets uncomfortable pretty fast. So the core belief to Jefferson's idea was overly simple and very radical. The dead should not govern the living. He wrote that the earth belongs to the living generation, not the past, not tradition, and not those already dead. He used a word most people have never heard of, usufruct. It means you can use something while you're alive, but you don't get to control it forever. Jefferson believed that that applied to land, governments, laws, constitutions, and even national debt. So he asked an objectively dangerous question. Why should people be forced to live under laws written by people who are dead and who never asked for permission? So here's where it gets wildly theoretical. Jefferson didn't just throw out a random number. He did the math. He used mortality tables from Europe and calculated that about every 19 years or so, a majority of the adults who were alive when a law was passed would be gone. That number's much larger now. Meaning the law would now be controlling a new generation that never consented to it. And Jefferson said that once that happens, the law loses its moral authority. If it continues anyway, he called it force, not consent. So in Jefferson's view, every constitution and every law should naturally expire unless the living generation actively chose to renew it. No permanent constitution, no inherited national debt, and no laws just because that's the way it's always been. Every generation gets a clean slate. Sure, it sounds democratic, it also sounds terrifying in its simplicity and lack of nuance, which is exactly what James Madison thought. Madison was Jefferson's friend and intellectual rival, and when he read this idea, he basically said this is terrifying and would destroy the country. Madison argued that stability matters. Governments need continuity. Roads, courts, contracts, property rights, public credit. None of that survives if the legal system resets every 19 years. He warned that if property laws expired on a schedule, people would fight violently to reclaim their land and resources, that debt would become meaningless, and that long-term planning would completely collapse. In short, Madison believed Jefferson's idea would replace tyranny of the dead with chaos of the living. And here's the key detail people often miss. Jefferson never tried to turn this into an amendment. He never introduced it as law. This was a philosophical argument, a warning, a pressure test. He was asking how far democracy should go and how much power tradition deserves. Madison won the argument, thankfully. Permanence became a feature of the Constitution, not a flaw. But Jefferson's question never really went away. How long should laws last? How much authority should the past have over the present? And at what point does stability become stagnation? Those are some very, very powerful questions. Jefferson thought progress required renewal. Madison thought freedom required continuity. And every time we argue about constitutional originalism, term limits, national debt, or whether outdated laws still make sense, we are still replaying this very same argument. What are your thoughts? Follow for daily history that actually explains why things are the way they are.